The village in it with a map and a plan. No place too tiny for this determined man. Crossing the counties one by one, he'll see in every English corner a bit of history.
Hello folks, welcome back to Cambridgeshire once again. We're in a different district of Cambridgeshire this time though. This is the first time TVI has touched Fenland. There are 16 parishes here and all this week we'll be taking on 5 of them. Now I'm currently standing in the northernmost settlement in Cambridgeshire, but this isn't the northernmost parish because the name of this place is not the same as the name of this little hamlet. This is where the River Nene meets the North Level main drain, and where they do is a place called FoulAnchor. It's part of the parish of Tydd St Giles. Tydd St Giles, Teat Hill of St Giles. All this week on TVI we're going to be exploring the 5 most northerly parishes in the Cambridgeshire district of Fenland. There are only 16 of them in total, so this will account for more than a quarter. Effectively, Fenland is the district that includes and surrounds the towns of Wisbech, March and Chatteris, which will all get their own videos in time. Today though, we're in the parish of Tydd St Giles. This is Fenland's northernmost parish, and the village is on the same latitude as places such as Loughborough in Leicestershire and Shrewsbury in Shropshire. There are several ideas when it comes to the name of this place. Although uncertain, the generally accepted idea is that Tydd means teat or nipple. Behave yourselves, it's a reference, supposedly, not to the things on your chest, but to a small nearby hill. Another idea is completely different, and it says that Tydd is an old Saxon word meaning tide, because this is where an important sluice gate was located and used for draining the fens. Although it's old enough, Tydd doesn't appear in the Domesday Book, because at that time it was in the liberty of the Bishop of Ely. The village was founded in the late 11th century with the building of the Church of St Giles in 1084 on a natural rise in the fens. That rise is likely to be that small hill, or teat. The church was built of barnock stone, known to be the gift of the abbot of Peterborough. The rest of the place is laid out in roughly a square shape, formed by 4 main roads. These are Church Lane, Hockland Road, High Broadgate and Newgate Road. Let's walk them all and see what life's like in Tydd St Giles. Tydd St Giles parish primarily centres around a main village of the same name, but the land area it covers stretches a long way to the northeast. Because of that, it encompasses a small hamlet called FoulAnchor, and that's where we'll begin this episode. Now, don't get me wrong, Tydd St Giles is a wonderful village and it's full of some great historical bits, but for me, FoulAnchor is where it's all at in this one. This area was historically part of a large network of drainage and irrigation canals, crucial for agriculture in the marshy Fenland landscape. The hamlet has a historical link to an old sluice gate which was used to manage the local water levels around here. The modern sluice gate is located close to the point where the River Nene meets a major Fenland drain. The hamlet is effectively 2 streets, Redgate Road and Bedford Row, and they sit between the 2 watercourses. There's also Swains Drove, a private lane off Redgate Road. On Redgate Road, close to the banks of the Nene, is a small war memorial, a simple little cross that commemorates those lost in wartime. There is a poignant connection with war out here. FoulAnchor is not far away from the former RAF base at Sutton Bridge, where Guy Gibson of Dambuster Squadron fame spent a bit of time. Whew, it's quite breezy at the moment. Mind you, we aren't far away from the sea here, and we're not far away from Sutton Bridge either, which we saw a few years ago now. We know how close to the sea that is. We drove almost to the wash, didn't we? Now, speaking of water, up here there are two waterways. One of them is a river, the other one is a drain. So here we have the River Nene, which runs to the east of the hamlet. Directly north of here is Sutton Bridge, which we covered a couple of years ago. In that video we learned a little bit about the river and its outfall into the wash through the two towers, the lighthouses on either side of its mouth. Slightly further inland now, the Nene is still the same generally straight channel that it is at Sutton Bridge, although there is a small bend in it here. The Nene's tidal section was an important trade route, and the upper section saw improvements for navigation begin in the 16th century. It was artificially straightened to aid navigation to the port town of Wisbech. Its current course was constructed after the estuary of the River Ouse silted up and was diverted towards King's Lynn. The Nene also played a crucial role in the draining of the fens, and at FoulAnchor you can see firsthand part of that Fenland history. Running to the north of the hamlet is that major drain that meets the Nene. It's called the North Level Main Drain, and where the two connect is where the sluice gate is. This is FoulAnchor Bridge, a significant historical feature of the region's drainage and water management system. To facilitate agricultural development and prevent flooding, extensive drainage schemes were put in place, and sluices like FoulAnchor became essential in managing water levels on the fens. Its origins trace back to the 18th century, a period during which the Fenland area was known for its challenging landscape of marshes and wetlands. The current structure was built in 1859. It still has some of its original workings. You can see here the winding gear that raised the sluice's inner doors to control both the level of the drain and that of the Nene. The fact there's a sluice here might be a clue as to the name of the parish. Tydd is thought by some to be an Old English word for tide. Speaking of names, FoulAnchor is related to water. It's believed to have originated from the strong currents in the Nene, which would cause anchors of moored boats to snag and foul. Foul is a nautical term. It's what happens to an anchor's chain when it becomes caught on something or wraps around something. The result is the anchor becomes dislodged from the sea or riverbed. Presumably then, here at FoulAnchor, moored boats must have had a serious problem with that, enough for the name FoulAnchor to stick permanently. So long-time viewers will know that when I see a sluice gate I get all excited for some reason. It's a piece of engineering which I just have an affinity with for some reason. I don't know why. I've managed to get really close to this one. I'm actually stood literally right on top of the sluice gate here because this is like this little walkway. And you can see there's a tablet set into the wall here. Now this reads, constructed for the North Level Commissioners by George Robert Stevenson Esquire CE AD 1859. And below that it's worn away a little bit, but it says repaired AD 1881. And then above that there are two more repair dates, one from 1945 and one from, I think it's 1967, but it could easily be 1867 as well, the top one. I think I may have taken a couple too many shots of the sluice gate there for some reason. Anyway, we're on a footpath now which takes us back to Bedford Row, which is where I began this little wander around FoulAnchor. I'm actually staying there tonight. I'm staying in an Airbnb, which was handily placed because in the morning all I have to do is drive about 2 or 3 miles to get to Tydd St Giles village, so that's very, very simple, isn't it? The next morning I was up early and on the road to Tydd St Giles. On the way out of FoulAnchor, I stopped to have a look at Tydd Pumping Station, a little further upstream on the drain. This was designed by R.B. Grantham, Son and Farron in 1936. It was initially capable of discharging 800 tonnes per minute. That's a lot of water. It originally had 4 pumps, the ones that are currently numbered 2, 3, 4 and 5. Today there are 6, with numbers 1 and 6 added later. Following the catastrophic floods of 1947 when the wash bank north of Crowland breached, further pumping capacity at Tydd was deemed necessary. Pump 1 was installed in 1950 of similar specification to those installed in the 1930s, and that increased the station's capacity to 1,000 tonnes per minute. The extremely wet year of 1968, which culminated in torrential rain of 4.5 inches in 12 hours, indicated the need for further increase in capacity. This was achieved by electrifying pumps 4 and 5 and installing a new electric pump, number 6, in the space provided by the original station. So today, Tydd Pumping Station has a capacity of 1,276 tonnes per minute. It serves an area of 15,380 hectares, protecting agricultural land, industrial units and residential properties. So let's drive into Tydd St Giles now, which is a fair old crack from FoulAnchor. To get between the two places, you have to pass through part of Tydd Goat. That's a village that straddles the border between Cambridgeshire and Lincolnshire, so we'll cover that in one go another time. Now, despite the name Tydd, which supposedly references a teat or nipple-like hill, the main village is completely low-lying, with an average altitude of 0 metres above sea level. The eastern side of the village is dominated by a Norman church, whilst the western side has the community centre, which is a large blue-roofed barn-like structure. Despite the fact that FoulAnchor is slightly further north, Tydd St Giles is considered to be the northernmost village in Cambridgeshire. That idea is backed up by the course of the Yew Dyke, the only natural watercourse in the village, which traditionally marked the boundary between Cambridgeshire and Lincolnshire. Although Tydd is located within the fens, which would have been underwater centuries ago, it stood on a low mound that would have been above the surface of the water. That means the village was inhabitable before the fens were drained in the 16th and 17th centuries, and that fact is corroborated by the age of its church. Now, the road we're using here to enter Tydd St Giles is called Hanworth Road, which more or less follows the course of the North Level main drain. This eventually changes its name to Kirkgate. At the point where it does, you'll find our first major landmark, Tydd St Giles Golf and Country Club on the right hand side. Designed by Adrian Hurst in the 1990s and boasting a friendly clubhouse, Tydd St Giles Golf Course is one of only a handful in the country that offers the sport for a full 52 weeks of the year. A par 70 course measuring around 6,300 yards in length, its larger than average greens and tees are immaculately kept and offer a challenge for all levels of play. The club has a range of practice facilities, including the world-renowned Explainer swing training aid and state-of-the-art practice and tuition facilities. It all makes Tydd St Giles the ideal place for newcomers to the sport to develop their game, as well, of course, serving the established to a fabulous level. Well, it's all very leafy right here. I'm surrounded by trees, and as you can probably hear, there's loads of birds around, so it's making quite the dawn chorus this morning. Now, our next job is to check this out. It looks just like a lane that leads to the middle of nowhere. It could even be a private drive. That is actually the entrance to a brewery. It's called Tydd Steam. A little further along Kirkgate is another well-known local landmark. It's a microbrewery which goes by the name of Tydd Steam. It was founded in 2007. Tydd Steam is quite the industrious little place. It can produce 2,500 litres per brew, and it does so within a renovated and converted barn. The building was formerly used as a garage for 2 of the farm's steam ploughs, hence the name. The vehicles are now kept in the Museum of Lincolnshire Life in Lincoln. It was all founded by a couple by the names of Will and Anna Neverson. Their original 5-barrel brewing plant was bought from Aldershaws Brewery in Grantham. Today they now use a much larger 15-barrel plant as the business has grown. In 2018, Tydd Steam won a silver award from the Campaign for Real Ale for one of its beers. So to the church, which is right in the heart of the village. This is dedicated to St Giles and accounts for the latter part of the village's name. Norman in origin, dating from 1084, this dominates the eastern side of the village. Although extensively redesigned in the 19th century, it still retains its Norman architecture and feel. The best feature here is the west window. It was designed by Alan of Walsingham, the same man who designed the octagon lantern at Ely Cathedral. This rare, clear glass medieval window survived the depredations of Oliver Cromwell's troops and fills the whole of the western end of the building. In the Lady Chapel, there are still some remnants of the church's original medieval stained glass, but the rest of the glasswork here is Victorian. The east window shows the life and passion of Jesus Christ, whilst the northwestern window depicts the church's and village's patron saint, St Giles, as well as St Paul. There's another reason why Tydd's church is notable, although around here it's kind of a normal thing. Several churches in this area have separate towers, and this is one of them. Here, the story goes that the original tower fell away from the eastern end of the church in the 18th century due to its poor foundations and strong winds. Local legend will tell you something else. That will tell you it was pushed over by the devil because he couldn't abide the sound of the church bells. Whatever the reason, it was rebuilt by Sir George Gilbert Scott when the church was extensively renovated in the 1880s. He shortened the church because the collapse of the tower had destroyed the original sanctuary. The current east wall of the building still has its original blank arch. The nave roof was built up to its present level and a new clerestory was installed. The original can still be seen on the inside where the builders filled in the Norman windows. And unusually, at the request of Natural England, the current woodwork in the roof has some boreholes in it to allow a resident colony of pipistrelle bats in and out of the building. The war memorial can be found in the churchyard. It commemorates the 12 men who died in World War I and the 3 who died in World War II, and also one man from the conflict in Northern Ireland. The latter of those was Michael John Gay of the 1820 Squadron Royal Corps of Transport. He died as the result of an IRA bomb on the 17th of March 1973. Sometimes the best things you find are the things you don't plan for. In front of the churchyard is this building. Now this looks creepy as all hell. Check this out. Abandoned, derelict building. I imagine if this isn't haunted, it's obviously an unsafe building. Would you look at this? It's the stuff of nightmares, isn't it? Shall we get a bit closer? Let's have a look. Wow. Trees growing through all its window holes. It's like nature's reclaimed this thing. I wonder what the story is behind this house. Why was it abandoned? Why is it derelict? And why is it now being reclaimed by nature? Really creepy, really spooky. Wouldn't like to be here at night. I'll tell you that for free. Okay, let's head on around Tydd and see if we can find any other houses similar to that. I'm hoping not. So now let's walk around the rest of the village, which is laid out in what is an almost perfect square. Its 4 sides are Church Lane, Hockland Road, High Broadgate and Newgate Road. This is Church Lane, which together with Kirkgate is considered to be the historic core of Tydd St Giles. Between them, the 2 roads account for several listed buildings. 2 of them are the church and its tower, but the list also includes an old Victorian primary school building and a schoolmaster's house. That's now fallen into disrepair, and it doesn't take a genius to work out which building it is. Yep, it's that spooky old house that we've just seen. The old Tydd House, also on Church Lane, is a Grade 1 listed building and was formerly used as a parish hall. Another notable listed building on Kirkgate is Tydd Manor. Just beyond the first of the 4 corners and still on Church Lane, you'll find the local school. This is called Kinderley County Primary School. It was opened in 1987 following the merger of Colville School in Newton-in-the-Isle and the former Tydd St Giles School. By 1990 it had 84 children on the school roll with a capacity of 90. Well, no more abandoned creepy houses, just plenty of little houses and bungalows that look like they've been built in the last 40 or 50 years. Fairly modern, shall we say. Now, our next road is Newgate Road, which is that road here that you can see behind me there. It's barren on one side, it's just basically a field. On the other side, it's all houses and not much else. But at the end of Newgate Road is our next landmark, and that will be the community centre, which has got a very distinctive roof. After a walk down Newgate Road, we find ourselves at the community centre, which occupies the southwestern portion of the village. Now, I couldn't find out a lot about this place, but I do know that the parish council own it. It's certainly a very striking structure, you'll agree, with its distinctive blue roof. Next door is a huge playing field and recreational space. Football is played here by Tydd FC, who play in the Peterborough and District Football League. The team is the former Tydd St Mary Football Club, which changed its name to reflect its change of location a few years ago. They were founded as Tydd St Mary in 1973. Let me tell you folks, the roof of that building is like a beacon. When I was standing over there at the school, I could see this in the distance, standing out like a sore thumb. It really does have that distinctive roof, and you can't really miss it, to be honest with you. Now we're heading north towards the point where High Broadgate meets Hockland Road. For the most part, this section of the route is residential, but I've got something to fill this bit. Tydd St Giles has a charity, known to the locals as Briggs Stock and Wrens, or B&W for short. It was first recognised as a charity in 1910. Its purpose was quite simple. It was to administer funds and manage land for the benefit of the inhabitants of the parish of Tydd St Giles. At the time of the charity's founding, it managed 29 acres of land and 3 cottages in Tydd St Giles, but it also controlled 12 acres of land in the nearby village of Sutton St Edmund. Generally, the aid from B&W to this day still comes in the form of money, although sometimes items will be bought for applicants considered worthy of it. B&W originated during the British attack on the Dutch in the Battle of Solebay in 1672. One of the officers involved was the writer Matthew Wren, son of a former Bishop of Ely. In his will, which was written just before the attack, Wren left 15 acres of low marsh to the poor of the village. By 1837, the charity's commissioners also acknowledged that John Brigstock had left land to the poor in 1667, although he never actually owned any. He had merely controlled the land for an older charity whose name is now lost, and his name was on the deeds. Now, though, both men are immortalised by way of B&W. Now we've reached Hockland Road and we've turned eastwards to complete the final part of the square. I reckon this street has some of the best bits. Hockland Road has an old chapel about halfway down its length. This ex-Primitive Methodist chapel opened in 1886 and it's still in use for worship today, apparently. It's now the only Methodist chapel for some miles in this scattered Fenland area. In addition, there was also a second chapel in Tydd St Giles Fen. It was Primitive Methodist too. It opened in 1878 and served until 1989. When it closed, its congregation amalgamated with that of this chapel, and it still has a faithful following. Well, we've walked over 3 kilometres to get to this point. It's a fair old distance around Tydd St Giles. You don't realise it when you look at the map. It looks like a really small village. Trust me, it's anything but. Now, next on our list is this building behind us here. This has got a link to a pope, believe it or not. This is the Crown and Mitre. So there's just the one pub in Tydd St Giles, and this is it. It's called the Crown and Mitre. It's a traditional country pub, often photographed and featured in images of the village. The pub's name is rather interesting. Supposedly it's named in tribute to Nicholas Breakspear, who later became Pope Adrian IV. To date, he's the only Englishman ever to hold the role. Breakspear was born in around 1100 in Abbots Langley in Hertfordshire. His mother died while he was young, and his distraught father joined St Albans Abbey, abandoning his son. Rejected by the monastery for being ill-educated, Nicholas is believed to have travelled to France in about 1125 and joined a monastery there, eventually becoming an abbot. On a trip to Rome, his skills were noted by the Pope, and he was retained as a cardinal, being sent to Scandinavia to reform the church there. His reign as Pope was short at just under 5 years, but very eventful. As such, he had to tread a very difficult diplomatic path. Adrian died on September 1st, 1159, possibly of angina, or as some say, choking on a fly whilst drinking wine. His travels in England before he left for France are not well documented, other than to say he was a travelling scholar. However, there are long-held beliefs locally that he was either curate or rector at both Tydd St Giles and Tydd St Mary, hence the name of this pub. At the very end of Hockland Road is Paget Hall, a Grade 2 listed building and former rectory that's hiding away behind these trees. It was designed by Sir George Gilbert Scott for his brother, the Reverend Canon John Scott, who was at the time the rector of this parish. It was built in 1868 at about the same time as the church was renovated. It occupies the site of a former tenement, which was described by the local press as mean and dilapidated. Standing upon the same elevated ground that the church does among clumps and avenues of trees, Paget Hall gives an air of life and importance to its surroundings. Now, there's no shop here in Tydd St Giles, but there used to be. It's here on this corner. See that sign there? That says Ye Olde Village Stores. So I imagine at some point this building here would have been a shop. Now, there might not be a shop, but there definitely is a parish notice board right here. Now, this is the kind of notice board which is a bit awkward for me to put a card on, because it doesn't have pins on it and there's no obvious way to open it. I'll see if I can fathom it out. Yeah, just about did it. Card at the side there. So there you go. People of Tydd St Giles, I have been to your parish. As it turns out, the building I thought was the old stores is actually still in use. It's a barber's shop. The old stores is the house next door, not that the sign was all that helpful. To make our exit from Tydd St Giles, we're using the main road to Wisbech, which runs through a small hamlet called Four Goats. Now, goat, spelt G-O-T-E, is a term that we'll meet a few times around here. Later on this week, we'll discover what it means and why there were 4 of them here. Stick around for that one. Otherwise, that's 1 down and 15 to go in Fenland, and if the rest of them are like this one, I won't be complaining. I do like places like Tydd St Giles, they just have so much more than you think. Down the road is village number 2, and in the next one we'll be talking for the first time about something called woad. It won't be the last. Now, just before I go, remember, this video is part of a huge project to visit every civil parish in England. That's more than 10,000. These routes are pre-planned, and due to time constraints, I can't cover every detail or walk down every street. Please don't complain if this video missed something out. I pronounce names how I choose to. I am very aware that local dialect may vary, and I don't take kindly to criticism about this. You've been warned. It's impossible to know everything too. If this video was terrible, make your own. If you're a regular watcher of The Village Idiot, you're not the only one. If you've got a small business, why not use my videos to advertise it? Leave a comment below if you're interested. And finally, thanks for watching this episode, everybody. Give us a like and a subscribe if you've enjoyed this episode, and share it with your friends and relatives. It all helps to keep this mission going. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as The Village Idiot, and I'm out.